Foster care adoption scam, 1986 to present in Butler County, Pennsylvania. The title says it all. I grew up in the foster care system along with my family. We went to family court in 1985 and were placed in a Butler County agency, and numerous accounts of abuse occurred. And the reason I want to talk about this case is because it's not just the abuse, it's the scam that went with it. It was the adoption. It was everything. It should be ripped up, honestly. And after learning about this about 3 weeks ago, I was in college while my sisters were still in the foster home, which they were adopted. So that was about, I was probably in between college and working at that time. And that brings us to 1991, 92, around that time. The problem is that it's left us as numerous mental health issues. And I want to talk about that at another time. I want to talk about the scam itself. When somebody applies to be a foster parent, they apply to help kids. Okay, that's the understanding. And that's what they make it seem like, these scammers, that they're helping kids. And which, in case, they hide the secret very well. And they're sexually abusive, mentally abusive, verbally abusive, and we have witnesses. The thing is, the witnesses don't come forward, they don't say anything, because most of the time they're too young to even comprehend what's going on. And the shock of going through it, the trauma of going through that. So that's why I wanted to bring this to your attention, because it happened here in Butler County. And because it happened in Butler County, it probably has happened in other counties in Pennsylvania, and we know that. And that there needs to be more legislation with the scams, the foster care scam. Because there's so much allotted per diems daily and monthly, and oftentimes weekly, to care for children. There's always money involved, and it's gotten to the point where I think it's appropriate to address this. So I'm addressing it in a video presentation because I feel that there's millions of dollars that goes into raising children, as we already know, from the school district to going on to college. A lot of times foster children are left in sometimes the worst situations because they're dealing with total strangers, number one. Number two, they're being placed in different homes on a regular basis, and a lot of times the community is not involved, and sadly that is mostly the case. The community is not involved in foster care, and it's not their fault per se, but I'm just saying that a lot of times that's what happens. And a lot of times now the orphanages are changed over to mental health agencies. They're not orphanages anymore. And if you go back even further back into the 1930s, orphanages like Holy Family, where abuse occurred there, I have people that talked about what they went through with the nuns. You know, you know that this is not just a new thing, okay? Abuse is going on in orphanages and foster care and scams. Why I call this the foster care adoption scam is that you have to get the money in order to raise the kids, and you can afford the other things to, you know, facilitate your scam and continue that scam by telling foster care directors and foster care caseworkers that everything's really good here. Everything's working out real well here. And you have everybody believe in this. So whenever a victim comes forward and tells you about abuse, they said, oh, no, that didn't happen. Oh, that couldn't happen there. They're not those kind of people. And that's what victims are running into, is that there's a lot of passive ignorance and it's I don't believe it's willful. Definitely believe it's passive. So the victim doesn't say anything. They get shut down again. They get shut down again. Now let me tell you the situation that happened to, well, let me change that. Instead of doing that, because I don't have permission to share that, I want to share with you what happened to me. It was the third day in foster care. It was October 3rd. I think it was October 3rd, 1986. And we were sitting at dinner, and my foster mother exposed herself basically at the dinner table, saying, grabbing her breast, saying that she wanted to know if I wanted milk. And this was, of course, progressive because she still does things, abusive behavior, more or less. And the reason I did this foster care scam adoption is because once they're finished with the kids, that they're doing this, what I know is a scam, they move on to another family. And I've seen it happen. And or they move on to another set of kids. A lot, excuse me, a lot of times people don't even admit this. They won't admit to any of this. That's okay. That's not the point. The point is I'm telling my story. And and I want to change the topic for a moment because I want to talk about the good foster parents that have done phenomenal work, who've gone to therapy, work with the kids. They work, hard at getting these kids adjusted, getting them back on track, getting them to school every day, the day-to-day things. Those rewards belong rightfully to the people that do the work, not to these people that call themselves great or helpful foster parents, because they don't deserve it. Okay, they cannot allow these people to get mixed up into it. And that's why there's been so much controversy about this topic, because you can't make generalizations about these situations. You have to have proof. You have to have, evidence of this stuff. You have to have proof that this happened, and it's really your word against that person's word, more or less. But because it happened to three of us, luckily we both can, all three of us can put the story together. I want to end here with that in mind, why I believe it was a foster care adoption scam, because my dad and my mom and my family, while they had their issues, and don't get me wrong, we were placed in a home because we needed a stable environment. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with what the judge ordered, because the judge made a decision. I don't disagree with the judge. I disagree with the kind of people we were placed with, okay? And the care that we did not receive. And I find it very upsetting that a lot of people don't really know how seriously traumatic it is to pull kids away from their family, and pull kids away, and the memories that are robbed, and the stories that we have not shared and not been a family the way we were supposed to be a family. And my dad said this to me too, and I said, oh, Dad, you know what? They're doing just fine. Nor did I could not believe how much my dad was right. And I want to say this as a closing. Scam or no scam, anytime abuse is involved, and money, in this case, this is how it worked out. No one wins this way. And my hope is that by presenting it in a presentation that you will hear that there's other issues that I haven't addressed specifically. I have to go into great detail, and I don't have the time to do that, and I want to. But with the support of counseling and the support of therapy, that seems to be a great support system. And that's one thing that is necessary for kids and families who need that family support. So we go to family therapy or a family therapy program. And I noticed a dramatic turnaround. The support's there, the nurturing's there, the needs are met. And that's one of the things that's important there. And when you know that the needs are met and the support's there, you can grow as a person. And that's the whole point. That's the whole point to raising a family, and that to meet the needs of the home. And that those needs are met, and that you could see that there's, as people thriving in that situation. And when you see that they're thriving and they're doing well, and that's on a consistent basis, that's when we know that that we're making progress. And I'm not saying that you can't make progress in a bad situation either, because you can. I noticed even in the worst situation, you can make progress and thrive. And that's my goal, is that no matter how bad the situation is, you can still you can still make the progress you need to make and thrive out of a bad situation. Thank you for giving me this time to present my case and my concerns about foster care adoption scams and here in Butler County.